Hey everyone, it's David Chen. I'm here with Patrick H. Willems. Patrick, good morning.
Good morning, David. How are you?
I'm good. It's Friday, June 17th, early morning Pacific time, and we had set this time to catch up on like what's going on in each other's lives. But you've had a really intense week, and you've had a momentous week, and I wanted to take this time to chat with you because I think it's important when we have big moments in life to try and pause and reflect on what's going on. We also are filming this, and if you decide it's interesting, you may post it for your patrons. But regardless, I wanted to just check in with you and see how it's going. You had the premiere on Tuesday night at the IFC Film Center of The Night of the Coconut, right?
We did. Yeah, we had like a proper movie premiere.
That's awesome. I mean, let's talk about that. Like before we get to that event, though, um, let's talk about the lead up to that event, right? So,
Yeah.
how many people are how many like tickets are available for the IFC Film
So,
Center?
have you ever been to the IFC Center in New York?
I don't think I have. I've been to like Lincoln, cinema, and I've been to a few theaters in New York City, but not that one. I don't think.
Yeah. So,
I've passed by it. I've seen the marquee.
of course. I mean, IFC Center, it's a West Village staple. It's like a few blocks from Washington Square Park. Obviously, IFC owns it. It's one of you know, the main sort of like art house venues in the theater, or sorry, in the city. And yeah, I've been there many times, and there's there's cinemas in there of all different sizes, and we were in I believe like theater one, like the biggest like central one on the first floor, the one where like special screenings are held. Like I remember, like uh, I mean it's this wasn't a special screening. Like it was the one where I saw Power of the Dog back in December.
Nice.
It was also last summer. Matt Zoller Sites hosted a screening of Mad Max Fury Road with like a talk afterwards. That was in that room. So I was
So,
like,
so
oh,
you've enjoyed many great cinematic memories at this
I
place.
have, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, cool. We got the big one,
Mm.
and yeah, it was a whole thing. Of like I didn't organize this event.
Hmm.
To be clear.
So did Nebula organize it or?
Nebula organized it, and yes, and Tara Folio, who's Dave Wiskus's assistant, Dave being play who third build in the movie, who plays Dave the agent,
Yeah.
also the CEO of Nebula and Standard, the agency that like represents me and started Nebula. So she's his assistant, and she basically organized the entire event. She took care of pretty much all the work, did an incredible job. And so there's a whole thing of like, okay, figuring out the guest list, okay, cast and crew, and how many plus ones, plus twos, whatever. Who else are we inviting? Other affiliated, creators, and then it got to the point where it's like, okay, we will open this up to the public. We're not selling tickets. This is not a commercial event. We don't need to make
Yeah.
money off of it. They're free. And then it just became one of these things of like, we would ideally like to have it as packed as possible. That we had a waiting list. Then there's as some people cancel, we open up more tickets. Then
Right.
inevitably, with things as they are right now, on the day of, I get like 3 texts from friends being like, still testing positive for COVID. Not going to make it tonight.
Yes.
Very relieved that all of the core cast and crew, fine, were able to be there, and so it was cool. It was pretty much everyone that I really wanted to be there, who
Hmm.
like was really involved
Who
in
was COVID
this,
negative? Yep.
who was COVID negative,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then also just like I've never done any, I've been doing the videos and the channel for years, but I've never done like a live event.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm still not sure what a live event would be, other than like, I don't know, why intro a screening of a movie at like the Alamo or whatever. But and so this was kind of like my first live event, and so it was fun to have like so many viewers and people who like cared
Yeah.
about this just there. And yeah.
I remember, when I did when I directed a movie called The Primary Instinct, and it premiered at the Seattle International Film Festival. Um, and just seeing like all these people who like I, because you put your work out there, and you have no idea who's consuming it. You have no idea who is listening or watching your stuff. They may follow you on Twitter, they may interact with you, but most of them don't. Like, 50 to 80% of them don't ever say anything to you,
Right.
right? And so then to see all these people who you've never heard, like never even clocked a Twitter username of who they are, like show up, and then say hi, it's like a very surreal but also gratifying experience, I have to imagine. Yeah.
It was, yeah. It's a thing where, I'll get recognized periodically just when I'm out and about, usually at like a movie screening. And anytime all of my interactions with people who watch the videos are always really nice. I'm very grateful to have built a very chill, friendly, like
Mm-hmm.
open-minded audience.
Yes.
Like I never have bad experiences. They're always lovely people, and so and that was absolutely the case here. Everyone there afterwards was they were great. They seemed It was cool to see people genuinely excited about this, and then they seemed to genuinely like it, and yeah, it was a really, like, not to get too like sappy here, but it was like a really moving experience.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why I wanted to talk with you. I wanted to like preserve this feeling you have somehow for posterity. For your, maybe you can look back on this one day and you can feel like,
Yeah.
this is what it was like. So, um, so where did you sit during the screening itself?
So this is the thing. Tara had asked me that ahead of time, like,
Yeah.
okay, what row and stuff like that. And I asked for about like fifth row center.
Mm-hmm.
And also, and so
Well, fifth row center. That's like bold. That's bold, man. Because I'll just say, like, if I was in that situation, I would be like far back, all the way to the right. Like I mean, I guess this is your first time seeing it in a big screen, right? So
it is.
So you want to enjoy it yourself, but like for me, you've probably already seen the movie like 1,000 times. So like,
yeah.
I would think that your primary thing you're perceiving new is what everyone else is reacting to, right?
It is, and also, which is also a thing that I was nervous about, but I'll get into that. But I mean, I was kind of. Here's the thing: I knew that I was going to be sitting. Like, my mom and my sister came to the city, stayed with me at my apartment to be there for this.
Oh, that's sweet. That's very nice.
I mean, I'll talk more about this, but my mom was the star of the entire event.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a thing, like, I knew I was sitting with them. I knew like Dave had asked to sit next to me. And so I'm like, I can't like ditch them. Like, here's the thing. There are few things I hate more in the world than watching anything I've made with other people present. If
Mm-hmm.
if I'm in a room and someone puts on a video I've made, like on their phone or
Mm-hmm.
computer or TV, I'll go, can you please turn this off? I'm so sorry, but like I don't want this on right now, because it's on the one hand, I wrote and shot and edited the video. I know every word of this by heart. I'm just sick of hearing myself, but also I just think about how other people are perceiving it.
Yes.
And so suddenly anything wrong with it, any problems suddenly become way more apparent to me. And I'm just thinking about them not liking it, or often with my videos, which contain this, bring with them this whole other weird context, like a serialized narrative. I'm just like, oh God, now I'm gonna have to explain this stuff, and they're confused, and I just don't want to deal with any of this right now. So I don't like that. And so the idea of watching this movie I've spent the last year of my life making, that, I really put in a lot of effort into, to try to make it something that I am actually happy with the movie.
Mm-hmm.
but also, it's like a weird little micro budget movie. There are of course compromises in any movie, and I'm just thinking like, am I going to be sitting there for 90 minutes, like hearing people not laugh at jokes I hoped they would laugh at and stuff
Yeah.
like that? And
Yeah.
I was dreading it for a while. I was actively considering.
You were dreading the event specifically?
No, I was excited about everything about the event except for the 90 minutes where we watched the movie.
I see. Got it. So you were excited meeting everyone, celebrating everyone.
Exactly.
But like the actual watching of the movie, you were not. Yeah.
For a while, I was actively considering stepping out into the lobby and sitting there for the full thing.
Right, which is a reasonable thing to do. I'm glad you didn't do that, but it's a reasonable thing to want to do.
Same. At the end of the day, it just came down to, I can't do that to my mom. I can't leave her sitting next to an empty seat.
Yeah.
And I will say, for the first half hour of the movie, I was just very tense, and I was like, "How is this playing? Oh God, I don't know."
So hold on. Actually, before we get to that, so then I just want to close off on the seat choice thing. So why did you choose? Because I just think it's like kind of a interesting decision, given your terror at the movie itself.
It was, part of it was because I knew I had to do an intro at the beginning, and then there was a Q&A after. And so part of it was so like, be relatively close so that I can
easy access to the state,
easy access. And then also just thinking, because I also wanted the core cast and their guests to also like be seated close by, like they were either down the row or like right in front of me. And so I was also thinking and some of them just had not seen the movie yet. And so because I knew I wanted us all grouped together, I was really kind of thinking, okay, what will just be the best place, the best place for everybody. And that was it. So if I had my way, I would have, been at the back corner so I could slip out. And I'm just like, I'm not sure about this scene, but no, I was just, honestly, I pretty much sat where I would like to sit watching any movie.
Right, of course. So you were just about to get into what the experience of watching it was like.
Yeah. The first half hour, it wasn't bad or anything. And I will say in particular, like, I really like our opening title sequence. And so when that's coming on, I'm like, yeah, this is
feeling good.
It is cool to see it on a big screen, like the DCP that we made and the projection and the audio levels were all really good. Actually, I will say, I didn't even mention this before. Maybe my biggest fear was not even the audience not liking it, but it was technical issues happening. Are discovering that, oh no, this version I exported has like you're
missing like 30 frames from a thing, or
right, or it's going to be suddenly like, oh no, there's like an unlinked VFX shot and it says media not found, or worst of all, the sound will go out of sync. Those were my big concerns, and then we have to pause the movie and cut off any momentum and say, sorry everybody, we're gonna switch to our backup DCP that we made of like a slightly earlier cut of the movie, and that kind of thing. And none of that happened.
Hold on. Let's pause there for a moment. So first of all, I guess you had made a backup DCP. Didn't know that. What was the reasoning there? Was it just for this purpose?
Well. So
because people don't usually make backup DCPs. It's usually like you might have like a Blu-ray or a DVD.
We did have a Blu-ray as well. Well, what happened was we went to a professional finishing house to get a DCP mastered last week, and we did that. We had the review screening last Friday, a week ago, to just check that it looked okay. And of course, there were like a few tiny little things where I was just like, ooh, now that I see this projected, like, we should adjust the contrast in like these two shots. And I can during this one song, I can bring down the like the audio level like 3 decibels.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing. But I was like, it's good to go, but like, here are a few things that I'll fix for like the version that will be on Nebula. And then we suddenly discovered that no one had realized that Ryan, the colorist on the movie, is fully capable of just making a DCP himself.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just a funny miscommunication. It did not come up. No one knew. And so suddenly we just went, oh, wait. We may have wasted this money getting this DCP made, but
Yeah.
we could just fix these few little things,
Right.
and have a better version. And so over the weekend we took care of this. Ryan made a new DCP, dropped it off at the IFC Center Sunday night, and so that's the thing. So we had the earlier one already that we had already dropped off, and then we just gave them a slightly updated one. So that's why we had two DCPs.
Yeah. So, and we should have made this clear too, if anyone's listening to this, but a DCP is basically the thing that plays the movie from the projection booth, right?
Yeah.
So
it's like it's a hard drive with a specially encoded type of movie designed for. It's like digital cinema projection.
Yeah. Exactly. Now, you also might be asking yourself, if you're listening to this, why would you have a DCP that you don't know what's actually on it? Why would Patrick be afraid that there might be mistakes? It's because it's not always possible to have a DCP and then watch the whole thing through in a theatrical environment before you actually need to use the DCP, right? Especially in the case of like a film of this kind very early on in its release.
Exactly. So, for instance, before the premiere, like when I arrived, Ryan and I went in just into the theater just for like 10 minutes just to like watch the beginning of the movie, just make sure it looks and sounds okay. And it is funny. I did there catch, honestly, the only real technical glitch in the whole thing, which is, and the funny thing is about it, I remember telling, before the movie played, I was telling Chloe, one of our leads, about this. And as I was talking, she was getting so nervous, like, oh God, am I going to have to like re-record a line or is there a big mistake? I was like, oh no, there's just in the opening titles, only on your title card, there's just this thing where the letters like slide in twice. And it does, to most people, it looks like an artistic choice. Mm-hmm. It just is a slight animation error that I immediately fixed like the following morning. And that was the only thing. But it looked and sounded witch
awesome.
Is great, because one of the goals going into this, because this was sort of the it's a weird movie because it is the season finale to like a long serialized like season arc of like television / YouTube, but then it ended up being a feature film that we're kind of treating as a feature film,
a standalone piece of work.
Exactly. A standalone piece of work that requires doing a lot of homework beforehand to understand it. So basically like any Marvel movie. Mm-hmm. And so, but I deliberately went into this being like, okay, even before we thought we knew it would be a feature film, when it was still just going to be like a 25-minute short, but I still wanted it to feel more like a movie, especially like I wanted like there'd be like a real like noticeable like shift in presentation from the videos that it was like spitting out of. And so everything from shooting it in a new aspect ratio, framing shots.
What was the aspect ratio, Patrick?
This was in 239:1, so like CinemaScope.
Whereas usually YouTube video is in what aspect? I think what 185, right?
Not even quite 185. 185 is a little bit wider. There's like very thin black bars. It's basically just 16:9.
16 by 9. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. And so we did this. We're going CinemaScope on it. I got a new camera to shoot it on. Like I wanted to get a cinema camera so we could have that like the greater dynamic range and everything to make it feel differently. As I mentioned before, usually I just do my own color grading. I had Ryan Alva, who's a really good cinematographer and colorist, be the colorist on this to like just like give it a more like robust, like to use a buzzword that I've mocked before, cinematic feel. And so watching this on a big screen, which was something that we never initially thought would happen, I was just like, oh yeah, this looks good on a big screen. It does. Like I'm glad that I framed shots
Yeah.
wider and all of that. And so, and yeah, and I will say after that first half hour where I was just like sweating a lot,
Yeah.
I don't even know if there was a specific moment, but I just kind of settled in and like, the audience was really getting into it. And pretty much the last hour of the movie, I'm just like, I'm having a good time. And the audience is having a good time. And experiencing the thing where, oh, they laughed at this joke to the point where their laughter covered up the next joke that came
Mm-hmm.
up. And I'm not even sure they heard it, but that's okay. Like, it's like, that's cool. Like
Yeah.
it seems to work.
Yeah. Was there anything else during the screening that surprised you?
Oh
You can
man.
finish that swig of coffee. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. From my Dex's Diner
Yeah.
mug.
Oh, classic.
Yeah, from Star Wars Celebration
Yeah.
2022. But anything else that surprised me? I don't really think so. I mean, there were certain things like there would occasionally be like a joke or a line where I would be like, oh, okay, they enjoyed that one more than I expected
Mm-hmm.
them to, or things like that. And I don't want to, get in. It is funny thinking about like spoilers for a very silly movie like this, but there were certain things, especially in like the last act, getting into the climax, where I was realizing, oh, like certain things here that I thought were fun, but I didn't think were like the best stuff in the movie are really clicking with the audience, and they're really into stuff like to a point uh beyond what I was anticipating, and it was really nice.
Awesome. So it sounds like it was overall like a very lively screening, that where people were engaged with the film mostly in ways that you hoped that they would be.
Yeah, they seemed to enjoy it. It was great. I mean, again, this like when I introed the movie, I was like, please hoot and holler and have a good time. This is a silly movie. Like, I don't. Please don't like sit there like somberly for the whole thing and be like and nod in appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
It was like no, just shout or cheer, whatever. And yeah, and they were really into it. It played really obviously. This was the ideal audience. It's like, oh, this is the people who made the movie are in the movie,
and their friends.
and their friends are then the most passionate fans who like
Mm-hmm.
canceled their plans to be here for this.
Mm-hmm.
And so it obviously best possible audience to see it with, and it was lovely. And then afterwards, I mean, we all just like we did a Q&A
Q&A, yeah.
After the movie, and then after that we all kind of like poured out onto the sidewalk in front of the IFC Center and just like mingled and talked to fans and stuff for ages. And the most delightful thing for me was so many people asked my mom for her autograph. And that is just the coolest thing. Yeah. As I predicted she would be like the biggest star there, and it was absolutely true. And yeah, and then it.
And what was their reaction to it? Like, you've obviously taken them along your journey for many stops along the Patrick filmmaker / YouTube journey, and so what was their kind of? How did they react to it after?
Is this my family or like the cast?
Both. I'm curious at each.
Yeah. They seemed to really like it. Yeah, it's I think just the thing of being like, oh wow, we made a real thing. This is like as much as this was. Oh, I've been working with so many of the same people since high school. The two leads of the movie. The first time we made a movie together was 2004, and so it's but mostly it's just been small little things like for us or whatever. And I think this was a pretty wild experience for them to both see themselves on the big screen, but then afterwards to have strangers come up and talk to them and ask for autographs and stuff like that. Like that was a new experience for them. And my mom just had the greatest night ever. She was just, I mean, she watches all the videos. She is like very
Aw,
invested in all of this. She's very supportive, and
that's very sweet.
yeah, and she just had such a nice time. She enjoyed the movie. She's also obviously in the movie, and she finally got to meet all these people that she's heard about for so
Mhm.
long. And then yes, like as great a night as I had, my mom might have had a better one because there was no stress for her.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Anything in the Q&A that came up that's non-spoilery that you felt like was a good question or a moment that you feel worth sharing from there?
I gotta think. Well, I do appreciate. So the Q&A was hosted by Adam Lance Garcia, who
Mm.
began immediately by establishing that the Q&A is not canon. Um,
Wow.
yeah,
Bold move.
I appreciated it because people would have asked. And so it is a funny thing because my brain was pretty fried during it, and I there's one part where it was the Q&A was with Dave and I, and Dave had started telling this kind of like heartfelt story about
Dave, not me to be clear. Dave,
yes,
someone else.
Dave Wiskus, aka
Yeah.
Dave the Agent, was telling this kind of heartfelt story about like us working together and the beginning of this thing coming together. And suddenly I was reminded of this like last minute technical thing that I did to the movie. Like, and I just cut. I was so excited to talk about it, and I just sort of cut off his story to be like, "Oh, that reminds me. Let me tell you about this bit of ADR that I added
Mhm.
like the day before the premiere." And but it was a fun time. Yeah, anything from the Q&A that jumps out at me.
I think what you're saying is you were full of energy.
I was full of energy, and at that point, so relieved because I'm just like, oh, it went well. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, great.
That was the primary emotion was relief.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And then also, my ego had swelled to enormous sizes by that point. People give you a standing ovation for a thing you've made, and suddenly it's like, oh my god, I could just take over the world now.
Mhm. Mhm. So, as we are recording this, the movie is out on Nebula, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I guess I wanted to check in and see kind of, but I mean, I'll just say, this could be written up on the front page of BuzzFeed, New York Times, whatever. It's not going to match from my. I would assert it's not going to match the feeling of the premiere. Like
Oh yeah.
it's that's like where as good as it gets, right?
Like uh,
Yeah,
like
go ahead.
it's a thing that I was saying, like, because after the premiere, then we had an after party, then we had an after party where everyone just kind of like migrated over and did karaoke until like 3:30 in the morning, until we're finally like, things are perfect right now, let's call it before this peters out.
Mm-hmm.
um and I was just saying to like the other, like, the rest of the cast, I was like, I keep forgetting that that like the vast majority of people haven't even seen the movie. It's not even out yet. Like, if this was all just for this night,
Would have been worth it.
it
Would have been
would
worth it.
totally be worth it.
I guess I'm saying all that not to put a damper on things. I'm saying like that in my mind and probably in your mind, like that was the premiere. Obviously, it's on Nebula. More, many more people will watch it on Nebula than watch it there. But like that was the event, and so I guess I'm curious for you how you're thinking about it, the process of making it and getting it out in the world. Like when you look back on it, how do you, what is the narrative you tell yourself about the time you spent making this film until this point?
That is a really good question. I mean, it's funny because, as I've talked about plenty of times before, this was supposed to be maybe a couple months of my life. Just this is supposed to be done during last summer, and
Yeah. Yep.
it was going to, and it was really just a project pretty much aimed exclusively at uh like the loyal, like
Hmm.
passionate
Yeah.
fans, like people who'd been watching this, for a year and a half, and like, here to reward you for for sticking with us. here's a big fun conclusion. And then it became an entire year of my life. And now, and just turned into, oh, it's now technically my like feature film debut, which it was
Mm-hmm.
not ever supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it was way more challenging to make than I anticipated. But with all of that, I'm I'm really grateful for the experience and to be able to have had that, and just I'm immensely proud that we finished the movie, that we made it like pretty much like we'd hoped to. There were like, we didn't have to like, compromise and cut lots of stuff. It's like, oh yeah, we basically got to do what we wanted, and the relief of being here at the end and being like, despite all of the delays and this taking 10 months longer than we promised, people still care and are still excited about it and are still watching it. And so that is just like immensely like validating and gratifying. And also just, it's just like realizing that, like, oh yeah, I I can do this. Like, this is this was a very difficult way to make a movie. This was considering uh, what we were trying to accomplish, the logistics we had to work with. Everything like making a 90-minute movie with tons and tons of locations and a fairly complex plot, while like your two lead actors live 4 hours apart from each other and have like regular day jobs that you have to work around. And like all of these things, like, we managed to do it. And so going forward, I'm just thinking, okay, honestly, I pulled that off. Like, the whatever the next thing is, like, I'm not too concerned about it. Like, the next one probably won't be as challenging as this. It'll still be challenging, but honestly, probably won't be this tough, because this was really tough.
Any thoughts on what the next thing will be?
Uh, the next thing, obviously, I will return to a more regular video schedule. Now that I only have to focus on like that,
Uh-huh.
as opposed to trying to make video essays while also in
Right.
like juggling a feature length movie. So of course I'll return to the videos, and I do, as far as my next like film project, there is a short film, probably like a 10-minute short film, that I really would like to get made, let's say, by the fall. And it's an idea that I'm excited about, and it's a much smaller project that could be like shot in less than a week. But that's also a thing where
Cut to 1 year from today, Patrick is still shooting the film.
I mean, here's the thing. I have set myself up for those jokes forever now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so, but yeah, I'm excited to go into something, to be like, okay, what if we could even apply like the budget that we had for the feature film to something way, way, way smaller, and really just I guess be able to have more control, and really try to be a bit more ambitious with a much smaller scale project. And so yeah, I think that'll be the next thing. As far as the next feature, I genuinely do not know.
All right. Well, anything else we didn't cover, Patrick, that you feel is worth mentioning about this last week?
I'm not gonna get into the stuff of just like all of the very minor like last minute tweaks to the movie that were made.
Mm-hmm.
As in, I submitted the version that is on Nebula. I uploaded it at 11 a.m. on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So the day after the premiere.
So it needed to be live like 36 hours after that, basically.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and so there was a deadline for like processing time and
Yes.
all that, like subtitles being made and everything. And uh so yeah, there was uh there was even a thing where in like, I don't know, in a couple days there, no one will notice it, but I might even still be patching a couple final little, as in
Wow.
I
You're
already have.
pulling a George Lucas,
I am. Well,
with the
actually,
special editions.
here's the thing that I do want to say. Uh, so with this, there were like last night, I sent in like a slightly improved version, as in I cut 3 seconds out, and there was one shot that was like too long at the beginning. I was like, we can lose 3 seconds of that, and then I made like two other tiny like VFX shot adjustments, and I was looking at the movie and looking at other shots where I could do more or change more or whatever, and I just had this. I finally reached this moment where I was like, it's time to be done. It's it because the thing is, especially now, like in 2022, when we have all of these digital tools at our fingertips. I directed the movie, but I also am the editor. I did most of like the VFX and compositing and stuff like that. So I could just tinker with this forever, and like the temptation is there, but I don't want to work on this forever. As much as the idea of the movie being perfect is appealing, it never will be to me. And I just have to accept that. And this is the thing. It's like you look at, especially, going back decades before they had all of these like these digital tools on, on a computer. And especially when you're looking at like lower budget movies, there are always seams visible, and I'm sure the directors of those movies, see certain shots and are just like, I wish we could have, like made that look better if we hadn't like run out of time or had like limited money or whatever, and that's fine. These are not like people don't shit on those movies, because like, oh my god, every single thing isn't perfect. This is just the nature of how these things work, and I, you know the stuff that I could tinker with if I wanted to is not really that important. I don't think it's gonna really take anyone out of the movie, and I'm happy with it as it is. And I think now I am feeling okay about stepping back and being like, it's finished, and it's out there, and it's done, and I'm happy with it, and I'm proud of it, and I can move on with my life.
I'm happy to hear that. Well, there is that famous quote: "Movies are never finished, just abandoned."
Exactly.
And now
And
you are experiencing that acutely.
I have abandoned
You have abandoned
my
your
boy.
child.
Yeah, I've abandoned Night of the
I've
Coconut,
abandoned my child.
my little coconut child.
I'm Paul Dano slapping you in the face right now. Is what's going on.
Thank you. I've always thought of you like that, David.
All right. Well, I am David Chen. If you're listening to or watching this, you probably know where to find my stuff. Just Google me online. But Patrick H. Willems is the director of Night of the Coconut, which is streaming right now on Nebula. Patrick, great to chat with you.
You too, David. Thanks so much for being a great moderator as always.
Thanks, man.